Facebook said we were hitting 2.6 ROAS, but the CFO said we were breaking even. Someone was lying, and it was costing our client about $200,000 a year. Turns out, it was Facebook. If you're running a D2C brand that's making between 1 and 5 million a year, this is probably one of your biggest blind spots. You're making scaling decisions based on in-platform numbers and weird assumptions. And these numbers are fundamentally broken. And the solution isn't buying a $2,000 attribution platform. It's a little bit simpler than that. So I decided to make this video for you to show you how we manage our 19 or I think 20 clients at the agency right now quite successfully by using a simple method and 3 steps, okay? So let's get to it. So I've managed about $100 million in ad spend in the last 9 years. And one of the biggest breakthroughs for me happened when I realized that I didn't have to chase perfect attribution numbers. I could develop a simple method for making quick and directionally accurate decisions that would, in the end, improve the results of all of my clients. And the beauty about this simple method is that it really helps me and my team focus on what really matters, which is creating really good ads for really good products. So here's the reality. Facebook's default attribution model is probably taking into consideration sales that didn't really originate from your Facebook efforts. And that's a big problem, especially as you start deploying more and more revenue streams or like channels like Google, email, SMS, so on and so forth. So for example, someone might see your ad and then sign up to your welcome flow sequence and then decide to buy after reading it. So that's not really Facebook that's driving the sale. It's your email sequence that's really making that happen for you. Getting lost in complex attribution tools is worse than a distraction. It's dangerous. I've seen media buyers spend weeks setting up attribution platforms instead of actually focusing on testing ads. Meanwhile, their competitors are finding winner creative concepts and scaling them profitably and gloating about it on X and LinkedIn. So, step 1 is going to be switching out your Facebook attribution optimization and your attribution setting for how you view success in platform. You're gonna eliminate the view through conversions entirely. Okay, so you can use 7-day click or 1-day click only. We only care about click-through conversions because we know that those are real conversions being really driven by Facebook ads and not being just stolen from your other channels. But even with clean attribution settings, platforms may still over-attribute credit. And that's where directional methods come in. So you don't need perfect attribution. You just need to know if you're moving in the right direction. So the first step in moving toward a directional methodology for measuring what's working or what's not is starting to track the right things. So here's what you actually need to track. Forget everything platforms tell you. These are the only, I would say, 2 metrics that you need to have as your North Star all the time. The first one is MER, which stands for Marketing Efficiency Ratio, which measures the efficiency across your entire marketing ecosystem. The second one needs to be CAC, or cost for acquiring a customer. That one measures how much are you paying to acquire every customer that you have. These 2 numbers actually have more sophisticated versions of themselves, which only measure the efficiency of acquiring new customers. And that takes any acquisition strategy to a whole other level because you're not only measuring overall efficiency of your ecosystem, but you're now measuring specific efficiency of your acquisition engine separated from your retention engine. So now you have more clarity on, okay, am I acquiring fresh blood for my business, or am I just squeezing, like milking the cows that I already have I hate calling customers cows. So the beauty about MER and CAC is their simplicity. Take your total revenue for the month, let's say $25,000, then divide it by total ad spend, say $25,000. Your MER is 1. This tells you if your entire paid media engine is profitable, regardless of what platforms claim credit for. So as I said before, NMER is even more powerful, and most founders completely ignore it. It's new customer revenue divided by ad spend, and this will show you how efficient you're being at acquiring new customers. Are you being profitable in acquiring brand new customers, or are you just getting repeat buyers from people who would have bought anyway, right? It's the difference between real growth and the illusion of growth. Now that we have the North Star metrics for your brand figured out, we need to start looking into the weight that every channel has on your top and bottom line revenue. So this is step 3, enter the multiplier method. The multiplier method is a simple tool that allows for us to understand which channels are actually driving incremental revenue to the business. It's not a tool designed for perfect attribution though. It's directional attribution. So what this means is we're not trying to track every single click or conversion. Instead of that, what we're trying to understand is whether, is it platform A or platform B that is actually driving more real business value.
So let's get started on the actual crunching of the numbers. So the first step in, for understanding your multipliers and how to make better budgeting decisions is going to be to get your data, right? First step. So here, what you're seeing is a calculator that we have. I'm going to be sharing this in the comments, in the comments in the video. So I only have to fill out the yellow bits. So basically, the data that you're going to be needing for this report is going to be your blended spend. So all of your marketing spend for any given month and your total revenue from Shopify, blended revenue, like Shopify revenue. In this case, for this spend, we're doing net revenue. And then you're gonna need your spend and revenue from each platform. So this is specifically what you spent on Meta. So you go to Meta ads and pull this and pull the purchase revenue from Meta as well. Same thing for Google. So spend for Google, revenue for Google. Okay, these are all in platform numbers. So now, once you empty those numbers into this spreadsheet, this starts auto-populating. And what you're gonna see is you have different interesting numbers. First and foremost, you have MER. Remember, we just spoke about MER. So MER is your marketing efficiency ratio. And this is basically for every single dollar that you put into the structure, how many dollars did you get in return? Right? So it's like blended ROAS, you can call it like that as well. And you can clearly see here that there's an upward trend in this number, right? So in January, as I said, they didn't have anyone running their ads, and they spent 45 and generated 133, which is a yield of 3. Now you can see that quite quickly we started working on the ad account. Even if we underspent for February, I think we joined in like the 11th or something like that. So we had to optimize. MER target for this client is 5. So we immediately got them there and we started scaling up budget. So as we ramped up, we spent 40 out of 4, which is a good upgrade. Then 44 out of 4.2. And then we had a Facebook ad that really knocked it out of the park. So that usually takes us about 90 days. And it literally happened here as well in about 90 days or less, and we got to target. So $50,000 at 5.3. So that was May. Now, as I said, I'm recording this in June, and we're seeing a downward trend. So we started going up, and then boom, down. So what I'm trying to understand first is, okay, am I on an upward trajectory or a downward trajectory? And I honestly will mostly look at June for this exercise and try and figure out what's going on. Word of advice, always keep a weekly and a monthly tracker on your ad account. I can quickly show you mine here. So what you're seeing here is basically my this is like a monthly super simple tracker. So what I usually track is, this is for store wide, so that's Shopify data. So any given month we do like, how much did you spend across all channels, how many orders in Shopify, net revenue, MER, CAC, conversion rate, average order value, and unique monthly visitor growth. You can disregard this one. This client wants it, but I don't usually look at that specifically, but you can if you want. So that's what I'm tracking. So that's where I'm getting all these figures. So, and if you have this, it's just so simple to do copy and pasting. So we do monthly Facebook, Google, and store wide, and we do weekly trends. We track the same KPIs, but on a weekly basis, and try to understand if we're on upward or downward trajectory. This is last 4 weeks, but we can track this for longer periods of time, as you see. Okay, so back to our thing, track your metrics, guys. It is super helpful. So now back to where we were. We already have our data. Thing number 2 is defining your assumed contributions. What are assumed contributions? So basically, assumed contributions is a fancy name for how much money do you think that is coming from paid media. That's it. Okay. So if you're making $1,000, what percentage of those $1,000 do you think are coming from Facebook? And here it's gonna be very imperfect. And I want to be very, very clear with you. If you're a perfectionist and you're looking for like specific granular data, stop watching this video. This is not for you. This is, however, a really, really good exercise for us to understand where to allocate our next best dollar without going into like super crazy tools and distractions. So for the sake of simplicity, and not the sake of simplicity, but here's a couple of things that informed my paid contribution, my assumed paid contributions. Okay, so how did I get to these numbers? So I'm assuming that paid media contributes around 70% of total revenue. How the hell did I manage to do that? Well, turns out, so first thing is, in February, there was 1 week where there was zero ad spend. Okay, that week brought in, I think, $25,000 in net revenue, right? Just email and whatever direct traffic they had. So that's 25,000. We reactivated Facebook a week later and we got 40. So if we do, so I think it was 25 divided by 40. So that means, that paid media in that specific week in February brought in like 40% of revenue. Why am I assuming 70? Because as you can see, as I started spending more money started being generated here, right? And efficiency started going up. So right now, I'm just assuming 70% is coming from there. Another thing that validated this assumption is that we didn't have an email strategy up until May. So basically, one thing that happened also is, you can see that in April, we did 1.9. We spent 44 at 1.9 in Meta, right? And we spent, what did we spend here? So we did 28 at 1.9, and then Google spent 15 at 3.6, right? And then an email team joined in May. And what immediately happened, even though I spent similar amounts of money here and increased efficiency, yes, like we did better on Meta. An additional, like, what is this? I think it's like $70,000, $76,000. An additional $76,000 were generated. So let's just formulate that. It's this minus this, and then it's this divided by that. So that's 29% additional revenue. And the biggest change in our structure, in our ecosystem, was that email campaigns and newsletters and flows were actually activated. Right? So having said that, I'm just going to take that very rough number. And I know this is not super accurate, but I'm just going to say that paid media is giving us about 70% of all revenue. And then email is giving us around 20%. So I'm going to punish them a little bit probably, or it may not be, I don't know, because several factors, but I'm going to say 70% paid media, 20% email, 10% direct. Okay. So that's just my assumption right there. Now you'll see how this plays out. From that assumption, I'm gonna grab these two paid channels. Okay, so these two are going to be these two rows are a breakdown of the first one. What do I mean by that? So Meta and Google are a part of paid media, right? So from this paid media, I think that 80%, that's why I have a 0.8, can actually do 80%. It's gonna be the same. So I think that 80%, the paid media revenue is coming from Meta, and that 20% is coming from Google. Okay, Rooster, how did you get to that conclusion? Again, ballpark, right? And you'll see why that is totally okay in this case. So as we can see here, okay, so again, January, Google spent 29, generated 66. right? They had a ROAS of 2.3. Last month, Google spent 17 and had a ROAS of 6.4. So you can clearly see here that spending less money actually generated more money. So that means that Google is not actually generating revenue. The more money it spends, the worse it does. If I spend less money, it looks better. And the only way that that can happen is because it's over attributing data to itself, right? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And then Meta, on the contrary, whenever I scale Meta, I see revenue scale. And in these cases, it's like quite significant. So I'm going to just assume I think my spend split is probably 60-40 at the moment. So I do feel like this is a fair assumption. So again, these are all assumptions, but you see how it plays out in the end. So I think that 80% of total revenue, of total paid channel contribution comes from Meta and 20% from Google. Now, having said that, that means that Meta is probably accounting for 56% of everything and Google for 14% of the total. Now, once you have this, you will get Meta multipliers and Google multipliers for the month. And it's a very simple equation. You just have to multiply your reported ROAS times the multiplier there, and it will adjust. So this would be the real ROAS that every channel is making. So you can clearly see here that Meta is actually bringing me a lot better results this month than Google. And not only that, but like Google was doing better last month, and I need to understand why. So like for Google to actually get me the revenue that I need for this to be making, I don't know, like 8 points of ROAS or something. Like what will happen if I do 8? So yeah, so basically 8.5 would be the Google ROAS if I want for it to give me the same amount of money as Facebook. So that just blows my mind, because then I know, okay, I have a 60-40 split. If I need to generate more revenue for next month. So Google needs to be extremely efficient in a way that it's never been for this business for me to be able to reach my revenue target next month. So yes, I can go in and optimize, but it's going to be really hard to get an 8.5 from one month to the other. However, I know that if I pump more money into Facebook, make some more ads, I can definitely sustain a 2 points, at least a 2 here, and I can just grow my top line without diminishing returns. So my main conclusion here is I'm going to go from a 60-40 to an 80-20. So I'm going to give 80% of total budget to Meta, 20% of total budget to Google. Why? Because this multiplier method just revealed that this thing is just like Google is definitely over reporting there. Okay, so that's in short how the multiplier method works. I'm going to be linking this, and I know this can be a bit tricky. Just go with your initial assumptions at the beginning and play with it a bit. You can change this every single month, right? And every month that you do it, you're going to get more accurate on it. So say what I'm going to do, as I said, is I'm going to change my budget split. And then if I change my budget split and hey, MER went up, I did more real revenue and my MER went up, the multipliers were right. If they weren't, if I do the change and then I see total revenue drop, then I go back and I recalibrate, okay? Because maybe then it's a 40-60 instead of an 80-20. And then I go on and try and do that. But like that is, in short, the multiplier method and why it's important. In this case, it's gonna really help me out for July, and I'm gonna be able to make more money at the end of the month based on this.
Okay, so don't overcomplicate it, right? Measure MER weekly, measure your multiplier monthly, and when Meta or Google come and say, hey, we made 90% of your revenue, then you will know who's lying. And I know I say this a lot, but it is important. The main thing you should be focusing on at this revenue stage, what will get you to the 5 or 10 million mark right now, is to focus on developing better creative. What does this mean? We need to make sure that you find your top message and concept and visual combinations that communicate your product the best way possible, in the most efficient way possible, right? Very little of that happens inside the ad account. Ad accounts are for analyzing stuff. Yes, we optimize things, but 80% of the value add that your team can create for your business is going to happen outside the ad account. So this method ensures that no one gets sucked into. And that client I told you about, after we started implementing this, they started making profit every single month. They scaled up to $5 million per year, and they currently sell on 2 Shopify stores, one for the US and another one for Canada. So stop letting platforms lie to you about performance. Now you know how to get the real numbers. Optimize for click-only attributions on your marketing platforms. Look at your MER and NMER every single week. And finally, adjust your multipliers every month and make better business decisions by looking at the right numbers. And then, once you're done doing that little exercise, you can go back to what you do best, creating amazing products that change the lives of people for good, and finding creative that converts and offers that people can't resist. See you on the next one.